that first we will discuss what is TQM and JIT, so give you a brief introduction of those two topics. Then we will start with a question, right? And obviously I will not write complete answer, but I will tell you the most important things to consider when you are starting. We will discuss what were the weak answers, what were the strong answers from examiner's perspective, and then we will conclude how to focus on improving the answers, right? So that's basically the agenda of today's session. So since this is section B is quite easy, so it will not take too much time. So I'm expecting this session for 1 hour and 15 minutes, right? So let's see how much time it will take, right? So I hope you can see this screen on your laptops, right? So see, whatever, when you are saying that quality, there is a way. I'm not going with the wordings of these slides, but I'm just explaining this. Quality is actually, if you are buying a Samsung phone, you have an expectation from Samsung phone that its processor is going to be good. Its picture quality can be good. But if you are buying any mobile phone from, at a lower end range, for example, if you are buying a lower set of mobile, you cannot expect to be a high quality camera or probably very high speed. So actually the quality is driven by the prices you are paying for that. You cannot expect to have what you can say first class services when you are paying for the economy class. So that's basically the concept of the price of the quality, right? So there are few concepts which we generally deal with when we are saying quality. The first and the most important thing is TQM, which we will discuss today's session. Six Sigma. Kaizen costing is not typically quality practices. I don't know why Kaplan has classified it here, but I'm just going with the flow. So Kaizen costing is actually to improve the product cost. I mean, optimization is actually its target. Then target costing and then JIT. So there are few concepts which are actually under the heading of quality practices. So we are going to start with total quality management. So the basic idea of total quality management is to produce the best product at the first time. I mean, what we are trying to do, we are trying to purchase the best quality raw material so that there is no chance of material issues in the product. We are trying to train the labor so the material which we are buying, the good quality material which we are buying, labor is able to handle that material, right? Then we are trying to have a good quality of machinery available so that nothing should went wrong. I mean, nothing should go wrong with the machinery. Then we should have a good store department so that whatever finished product we are manufacturing uh, will not get obsolete in the store department. And then obviously delivery and dispatch system should be accurate so that your goods will be safely transferred to the customer. So from starting till the end, we are trying to make sure that the quality remain intact, right? So that is basically the purpose of total quality management. Like we are trying to have all resources in order to improve the quality, but obviously we have to make sure that the cost is not too high for it. So what the definition says is that process of applying a zero defect philosophy to the management of all resources and relationship within organization. I mean, material, your store department should know that what they have to do. Your labor should know, your management, your upper management. I mean, everyone should know that quality is the priority. Cost is not the priority. So that's the basic idea of TQM, right? So there are a few key principles of TQM. Customer focus is important. Customer focus is in the sense that what is quality with respect to customer, right? For example, if you are buying a ballpoint or a pen, the most important thing for a customer is how the pen is writing or how comfortable I am in writing with that pen. the cap of that pen is not a big deal. So that is not a if I'm having a quality cap, it's not a big deal. I mean, it's not going to improve the quality of the product. So what customer is requiring, that is important thing. Internal customer and internal suppliers, I mean, maximum control which you can exercise is when you produce things internally. However, it's not always the correct thing. Causes of defects identification, quality culture, zero defects, get it right first time. Now, this is extremely important because if you produce a faulty product, obviously it's going to cost you. We will discuss it later. Quality for certification is something which is generally advisable whenever you are uh, claiming that you have a quality product. It will help the custom. It will help you to prove yourself. Like quality certification, ISO certification is extremely important. If you are saying that we got an ISO certification for quality, that means you are producing good quality output. In that case, you don't need to prove anyone. You have already the certification. And cost of poor quality should be emphasized. This is something which we will discuss today, right? So TQM has actually four areas. Cost of quality has four areas. I think I should have written it first. Let me try to write it here if I can. There are four costs of quality: the cost of prevention cost, then appraisal cost, then internal failure cost, and then is external failure cost. This is something which we will discuss in today's session, right? So there are four different costs: prevention cost, appraisal cost. Okay, fine. Let's discuss this, and then we will discuss later. Prevention cost means cost which the company is bearing for preventing the losses. Like for example, you are buying good quality material so that your losses can be protected. You don't need to, I mean, you should not end up resulting bad quality product. You have a good labor, you have up to date machinery, you have good production system, everything is perfect. So what you are trying to do, you are trying to prevent the losses, right? You are spending to prevent the losses. Then the second one is appraisal cost. Appraisal cost means that it's basically quality control department cost. Like for example, you have spent a lot of money uh, in preventing your products from, you are trying to prevent your products not being a faulty product. The second thing which you need is to make sure that your products are up to the mark. So what you do is you pass the products through a quality inspection department. So that quality inspection is actually the cost of appraisal, cost incurred in order to ensure that the outputs meet the required quality standards. So generally it's a quality control department cost. So if you are confident that your products are of good quality, you can reduce the appraisal cost. You don't need to check a lot of products because you know that your products are already of good standard. But if you think that no, I'm not sure about the product quality, then obviously you need more inspection to be sure that whatever products you are trying to produce meet the quality standards, right? So these two are costs which are required to prevention and checking the products, right? Then there are two costs which are costs of internal failure and cost of external failure. Now, what happen is, let's suppose that you have spent a lot of money in preventing the losses, right? And then you did the quality control, quality inspection, everything. Now what will happen? Let's suppose that there is a defect. Let me give you an example of Samsung Note. I think it was Note 7, whose battery got exploded, right? So it doesn't mean that Samsung has not done any quality inspection checks on the product, but the thing is they miss that thing, right? So if your product has a fault and uh, you detect it before passing it to the customer, in that case we will say that there is an internal failure cost. Internal failure cost means that before passing it to the customer, you figured out that something is wrong with the product. So what you did is you stop the production probably, or maybe you stop the sale of the product and you fix that issue and then you sold it. So whatever expenditures you made before selling it to the customer, reworking expenditure, that comes under the heading of internal failure. External failure is what Samsung did. External failure means that once you sold the product to the customer and customer figured out that there is something wrong with the product, then they will bring the product to you, and then they will ask for you to do the warranty. They will claim the warranty and you ask you to do the reworking. That's the scariest part, and that's something which we call cost of external failure. So if you see all these four costs, among all these four costs, the most important, I mean, the most, if I say the scary cost is external failure. The cost when customer will tell you that your product is not good enough, right? So that's basically something, because there's a loss of reputation, there's a loss of sales, future contribution. There are a lot of things which you have to correct then in order to bring your image back to normal, right? So the advisable is that you have try to spend more and more on preventions costs so that your other three costs can be minimized. But if you are not spending much money on prevention, right? If you are not spending money on prevention, then you have to do more inspection. There will be more internal failures. There will be more external failures. So if you are trying to prevent this part, you have to spend costs in other areas of the production. So these are basically four costs. So generally, we believe that prevent spending on prevention is the best one rather than prevent spending on external failure, because that can give a chance to your competitor to uh, excel in the market, and you can your performance will get damaged. So that's basically the thing, right? So this is something which we are going to deal with today. And then there is another concept of JIT, and I'm not sure, it's not here. uh, we will discuss it, don't worry. Just in time management is basically an idea where we believe that what we will not have any inventory in the store department. What we believe is that we will produce whatever is required. We will purchase whenever it is required us to purchase. Now it's quite scary, because let's suppose that your customer suddenly asks you to produce more output. In that case, it will be difficult for you to manage your inventory if you have not done your homework, right? So JIT is generally only acceptable in a situation when you are reasonably sure about your resources, about your labor, about your suppliers, that your supplier will be able to give you material on time, your labor will be able to produce as much output as required by the customer. So that is basically the concept of JIT. Now, I'm not going to talk much about that. I'm just trying to move to a question which I just have sent it to you. It's not a difficult one, it's an easier one, in my opinion. So, probably you can figure out what are the issues, and probably you will be able to identify the issues, right? So, I think I can work with this. I don't need my pen in this case, or just a second. Let me try to use my other laptop. Okay. So this is basically a question which we are doing today. Okay. Okay. So first of all, let me tell you what is the requirement. That if you see the requirement says that respond to the CEO's request for the work on the following areas: the introduction of JIT system, that is for 13 marks, and the cost of quality changes, that is for 7 marks, right? So if you see the requirement, probably you are unable to understand what is actually the requirement, what is actually required in the question. So what is actually required in the question? For that, you have to go back to the question and see what is the scenario, what the CEO wants from you. But there is one thing which is extremely important here, is that respond to the CEO request for the work on the following areas: the introduction of JIT. This introduction term is extremely important. Why? Because whenever, just mark my word, whenever you are introducing any new concept in a company, or whenever whenever it happened that the company wants you to advise about a new concept, you should always start your answer with the basic definition of the concept. Like in this question, I don't know what is the question, but since we are supposed to write on the introduction of GIT system, that means your answer should start with the definition of just in time system. Generally, it is of 1 to 2 marks, right? So this is important. Don't start with the question, start with the basic definition of what is just in time management. Maybe in 2 lines or 3 line maximum, not more than that. But you have to tell the reader that what is GIT, right? So that's the most important part. And that is for 13 marks, right? So before even reading the question, you should understand that if I'm going to introduce, I will get 1 to 2 marks from from GIT system. So probably I am left with, let's aim for 12 marks from this question. I actually have to write for 12 marks. I have to figure out 12 marks from the requirement, right? Similarly, cost of quality changes, we really don't know if cost of quality changes has been introduced, so we will keep it for the later one, right? So this is basically the starting point. Now let's just start with the question. Corsic is a clothing manufacturing. Uh, okay. Corsic is a clothing manufacturer in Thailand which produces a range of dresses which it sells to Erich. The range of dresses are the only products which Corsic produces, and Erich is the only customer. Can we identify any unusual thing? What the company is doing? Company is in the clothing manufacturing business, right? Something which is quite unusual is that the range of dresses are the only products. I mean, we are producing jeans, so we are producing multiple different types of jeans, but we are only producing jeans, which Corsic produces, and RH is its only customer. So probably if something went wrong with this per customer, probably we will end up without any sales. So this is quite scary. This is a risky thing, right? This is a problem which should be kept in mind, right? Okay. RH is a well-known retailer in Thailand. Now, this paragraph is actually not about the Corsic. It's not about the company, it's about my customer, right? So RH is a well-known retailer in Thailand. RH has recently been affected by changes in consumer purchasing preferences to buying clothes online. And as a result, RH is keen to reduce its inventory holding as a way of reducing its cost. This is not me, this is my customer. RH is also finding that it has an excess of goods which it has to discount as consumer taste appear to change more quickly than in the past. So what is the problem? Problem is not at our end. Problem is with the customer. It's actually the customer whose customer taste is continuously changing. So what we are expecting that RH will probably demand different things from us, right? Now its current purchasing policy, right? Purchasing policy is related to my company. Corsair currently obtains its raw material from 4 suppliers, right? Each of these supplier operates differently differently in terms of processes and procedures that they adopt in trading with Corsic. Corsic has been agreeable to this as the quality of the raw material supplied has generally been acceptable. Right. Now I'm stopping here, and what I'm asking you to do is try to reread this paragraph and try to identify, is there any problem which you think exists? Is there any problem here? Whatever. This is the first session and I'm not expecting an extremely good answer. So don't worry about it. You have to be vocal. Is there any problem? Okay, let me try to highlight. See, what the company is doing, company has four suppliers, right? Each of these supplier operates differently in terms of processes and procedures. Probably there can be a supplier who wants you to who will deliver in 2 weeks. There can be a supplier who can deliver in 1 week. There can be supplier who will say that okay, fine, we will sell at least 10,000 units in one order. Maybe there is someone who will say that okay, fine, we will not carry out the quality inspection. You are supposed to do the quality inspection. So the terms and conditions of all four suppliers is different, right? This is the first thing. Second thing is that Corsic has been agreeable into this as the quality of the raw material supplied has generally been acceptable. In general, it is acceptable, right? It's not always acceptable. It's not always up to the mark, but then okay, fine. Generally, it's fine. Generally, it's fine is not 100% perfect thing, right? So there are two things. The first thing is different purchasing processes, and the second thing is that you are generally accepting even low quality material. Right? Okay, fine, it's good, it's fine, we are accepting it. More recently, however, Corsic has found reasons to question the accuracy and the quality of the raw material delivered from one supplier, right? So now he figured out there's something wrong with a supplier. Additionally, another supplier now only dispatches material to Corsic in full load quantities as it wishes to optimize the use of its delivery vehicles. Now, how many suppliers we had initially? We had four suppliers, right? We had four suppliers in the company, and what Corsic has identified two issues. Corsic has found reasons to question the accuracy and quality of the raw material delivered from one supplier. So one supplier is not delivering up to the mark material. Additionally, another supplier. There is one more supplier. Another supplier has now only dispatched material to Corsic in full load quantities as it wishes to optimize the use of delivery vehicles. What So these two are actually two suppliers are having actually problem. One is not ready to deliver you low quantities, and the another one is having a quality problem. Right now, quality issue and quantity issue. Right now, what is the current? These are something which is actually related to purchasing thing. Right now, the question is moving towards production system. Again, we are talking about Corsic, right? So the performance metric at Corsic for production efficiency is the number of dresses produced per period. So that means more dresses. If you're producing more dresses, you will get more bonuses. You will be supposed to be more efficient. Corsic's method of production is to produce individual dresses in long production runs, which has helped in maximizing the output. Right? So that's something you are producing more and more outputs, and when you are producing more and more outputs, you are trying to maximize the overall quantity. Staff working in the production department have their bonuses based on this metric. Now this is important. Staff is also encouraged to produce more and more output. Goods which have not been produced to the required standard have traditionally been rejected at the end of the production process. Corsic's production control manager has indicated to you that the current production methods have been successful as the company only has 5% of its goods returned from errors due to poor quality. Now, I'm giving you again 2 to 3 minutes to read this paragraph again and try to identify from this part, is there any problem? typically when when the question is saying that the product has been rejected at the end of the production process, what can we interpret from this? We are doing the quality inspection probably at the end of the production process, which means what? Which means that you will only get to know that the product was not up to the quality standard when you are done with the production process. Suppose there is something wrong with the cutting of the dress, right? Something went wrong with the cutting, or you cut at short size, something, and you ask labor to stitch that, everything is done, and at the end you figured out that cutting was not up to the mark. So if you have done the uh, quality inspection at the starting, you would have saved a lot of money, a lot of time, no, that thing. So the most important thing is you are doing everything at the end of the production process. Second thing is that this part, Core 6 Production Control Manager has indicated to you that the current production methods have been successful. Now, what he's saying? He's saying current production method is successful as the company only has 5% of goods returned from errors due to poor quality. 5% of the goods are coming back to your company from the only customer you have. And you are claiming that the company is having a good quality output, which is probably not the case. You are just trying to portray a bad performance in a sugar coated statement. Because if this customer, because RH, what RH is going to do, RH is going to have a GIT system because its consumer is continuously changing the taste. In that case, it's going to be problematic part, right? So this is something which is not good. 5% output is not a good idea. Now, JIT and cost of quality. RH would like to move to a JIT. RH would like to move to JIT system of purchasing its goods from Corsic. Now, what do you mean by this statement? RH would like to move to JIT system of purchasing its goods from Corsic. That means you will get an order from RH whenever RH gets order from its customer. So the number of orders are not going to be on a constant pace. There may be different type of orders. There may be different um, sort of requirements from the customer, right? Because the demand is because initially it says that the customer taste is continuously changing. So probably you can expect some different type of material of requirements from RH. So we have to take care of that because we are going to supply things to RH. The board of Corsic has asked you now. This is an important statement. This is an extremely important statement. The board of Corsic has asked you for help as a management consultant to advise it as how the company may have to change its approach to areas of purchasing and production to prepare itself for producing to JIT principle. Now, this is actually the requirement from the question. Um, you are what you are supposed to do. You are supposed to advise. You are supposed to advise company as how the company may have to change its approach to the area of purchasing and production to prepare itself for producing to a GIT principles. Now, just hold it and try to reread this requirement and understand what you have to write, what board actually wants you to do. Just take a moment to read this requirement again and think. I'm giving you a minute for that. All right. What is the requirement? How what you have to do? You have to basically what I'm trying to do now is I just want to prepare myself for a customer who is moving to GIT. I don't know what to do. So I have hired you as a consultant to tell me how I'm going to change my processes, two processes, production and purchasing. How I can change my production and purchasing process so that I can be comfortable in dealing with the requirements from RH, which is going to move to GIT, right? This is actually something which I am supposed to understand from you. So you are supposed to guide me how I'm going to change my processes. So that's basically your area to do, right? The CEO does not believe. Now, there's one more statement. I generally mark the requirements with blue color. The CEO does not believe that the company will encounter any problems in adapting to RH requirements and has told you we have very good quality control practices, right? We have very good quality control practices and producers and procedures in place and are confident that we are consistently supplying good quality which are required at an acceptable prices at high quality. Our practice of testing goods at final stages of production and before they leave the factory supports this. So this is a big statement made by the CEO. CEO is confident that whatever they are doing is perfectly fine. They don't need to improve anything, and they are confident that their processes are good, the quality is good, the prices are good. So you have to figure out that whether the CEO is right, whether his confidence is correct, whether he needs to again reconsider his confidence, reconsider his procedures, reconsider his statement. Corsic CEO has also made available to you a list of costs which she believes addresses all relevant cost of quality. These costs are detailed in Appendix number 1. The headings for the cost of quality reports are also supplied in this appendix. She indicated that some of these costs have never been measured before and have been given financial values to help you to give advice. She also told you that Corsic's current revenue is 4.5 billion, right? So what is the requirement? Again, let's revisit the requirement. Requirement are from two parts. The first part is the introduction of GIT, how introduction of GIT requirement, and the second thing is cost of quality changes. So these are two requirements. So if we are moving towards the first requirement, the introduction of GIT. Now, before writing the answer, before starting writing the answer, first of all, you need to understand the marking scheme, right? Uh, this is something which will help you to understand how much you are supposed to write. Okay. So overall requirement is of 13 marks, right? We believe that 1 mark we can get from the basic definition of GIT. So we are generally left with 2 marks, right? Sorry, 12 marks. 12 marks means that what we have to do, we have to advise with respect to purchasing and production, both, right? How we need to change. So let's prorate it like this. 6 marks for purchasing part and 6 marks for production part. We will make two headings, production and purchasing, right? So if 6 marks are allocated to purchasing part, that means what you have to do, you have to identify the problems or changes you have to make, and then you have to tell not examiner, CEO, why these are important, right? Similarly, for production, you have to identify problems or changes which you are going to identify or recommend, and why these are important, right? So if we are assuming that, because this why factor is again important, if you are not writing the why factor, you will not get marks, right? Only saying that do this, do this, do this will not earn marks. Do this, do this because it's important, because of this reason, that's going to earn full marks, right? Now, for 6 marks, if you have to write these two things, that means we can assume then 1 mark is for the identification of the problem and 1 mark is for the justification. That means what? That means you have to identify 3 points and then you have to justify those points. You have to identify at least 3 points and then you have to justify. That's something which you have to do. And when I'm saying that you have to identify 3 points and justify, so these two will be of equals to 2 marks. So identification of first problem is justification. Identification of second problem is justification. Identification of third problem and a justification, and you are done. If you think that okay, fine, these three are maybe I won't be able to get enough marks, you can write fourth one, but don't write more than that. Okay, because generally examiner will give you a lot of things in the question. Um, just a second. Okay, so let's start with this. Okay, so what is our focus? Our focus is that how we should change the production process, how we should change the purchasing process, so that we will be comfortable in meeting the requirements of RH. And RH is the customer who's going to move to JIT. Now, what will be the basic demands of RH? RH will want us to provide dresses, correct quality of dresses at correct point of time, right? For example, if he has asked us to produce 100 t-shirts in 10 days, so what he will expect, he will, because he is also moving to JIT. Sorry, RH doesn't have any inventory. So that means RH will definitely want us to produce within 10 days, not more than 10 days. And if we are producing 100, if you are selling 100 t-shirts, he want 100 t-shirts to be perfect. Because if we are saying that, okay, fine, 5% t-shirts, because the quality standards, they say that 5% are not up to the mark. So let's suppose out of 100 t-shirts, 5 t-shirts are not up to the mark. Then he has to return it again, and then we are supposed to rework. So ultimately, we can end up losing that customer, and we have only one customer. That's the problem, right? So this is basically the objective. Now what we have to do, we have to reread this part and try to understand what procedures we need to change with respect to purchasing, right? I'm giving you 5 minutes to understand which areas needs to be changed, and uh, then we will discuss. Okay. I'm giving you 2 to 3 minutes for this, and then we will start. All right. Okay. See, traditionally, what I want is that you should be at least able, because everyone will not secure 100% marks, right? So what I want at least you to do is, out of 13 marks, you should be able to get at least 10 marks, 11 marks, right? I mean, it's best if you get 13 marks, but let's start with the purchasing policy, right? What things you think that the company needs to change if the company is aiming towards, uh, if company is aiming to supply to a customer, only customer who is moving to JIT? Would you like to volunteer? Okay. See, the first and the most important thing is that you have four suppliers, right? And all suppliers are operating in different process. Everyone has different process and procedures of buying and purchasing, right? So you have to, first of all, you have to make sure that whatever processes are, whatever suppliers you have with you should have same processes and should have standardized process. Because what happen is, when you have, I mean, one supplier can give you material in 5 days, one supplier can give you material in 10 days, one supplier can give you material in 2 days. So obviously there is a confusion, right? Quality standards. Let's not talk about quality standards right now. The procedures of this. Someone wants different documents. The other one wants different documents. One want document manual document. The other one is fine with online uh, documentation, something like that. So every customer should, all suppliers should be on one page. Because let's suppose if you forgot to manually send in an order to to a supplier, and after 10 days, when you start inquiring the product, raw material, they say that, okay, fine, sorry, we didn't get the order manually, so we are not going to process it. We didn't process it. So such things can happen. I mean, these are the errors, but the errors can happen because you don't have a standardized procedure of buying from suppliers. So um, the first thing is that, the first thing which you need to do is, you need to have a standard purchasing system. You have to agree with the customer, that supplier, that you will follow a standard purchasing system. And again, why this is important? Because if you have if your suppliers have different processes, then it can up in error or maybe delay in dispatch. Because uh, delay in getting raw material, in securing raw material. Because there are chances that, because the terms and conditions are different, suppliers won't be able to supply you on time, right? So this is the first thing which you need to understand, is that supplier should be, there should be a standardized procedure, right? In every supplier, if a supplier is coming to your organization to supply raw material, he has to follow it. You have to be strict with that. Number one. If you are saying that, if we are uh, if we are supplying to a particular, to RH, who is actually particular about GIT, who is following GIT, in this case, timings is something which should be make sure that you are supposed to deliver within a specific time, within a specified time period, right? So that is the most important thing. The second thing which they said, that Corsic has been agreeable in terms of quality, reasonable quality, generally acceptable quality. Now, quality is something which need to be communicated to the supplier. Quality is something which is extremely important. Quality of raw material is extremely important, because whoever is with the company must supply company with a good quality raw material, a specific type of raw material. Because if you get below the standard raw material, you won't be able to process it properly. You will have two options in that case. The first option is to use that substandard raw material and produce the output, which can be rejected by RH later. Second is you, I mean, you what return that supplier to the raw material to the supplier and ask them to resend perfect raw material. And in that case, it will take more time, right? So quality of raw material is will be extremely important. Why? Why? Because using low quality standard, low quality material will reduce the quality of product. Or if the company return low quality material, it will take more time to supply to get the new ones. And obviously it will delay uh, Corsair delivery to RH, right? So one part is actually the identification improvement we needed, and one part is related to the Y factor. And that Y factor, if you will not write, you will not get marks. You will not even get general marks for that. Okay. What is the third thing which probably we need to change is that there is one supplier is having raw material quality issues. There is another supplier who will dispatch whatever maximum raw material because he thinks that he should reduce the raw material cost. So the quantity of raw material should be uh, I mean we have to communicate to supplier that the company will only accept the raw material ordered by them. Because if Corsair accept excessive raw material from its supplier, obviously RH is not placing enough orders to them. I mean, let's suppose if I'm Corsair, I'm not getting enough orders from RH because RH is also careful. RH is not giving me a lot of orders because RH knew that the customer's taste is going to change in a while. So he's careful. Now, if I have a lot of, let's suppose, a cotton fabric, I have a lot of cotton fabrics. What I will do if I don't have a use for them? So obviously, it will be useless for me. It's going to reduce the profitability. So in that case, because there will be low quantity of orders by RH um, relating to each product, and this will result in unused raw material by Corsair, right? So we have identified 3 points and we have written these 3 points along with the justification. At the end, what you can do is you can, if you want to write one more point, you can say that RH Corsair may also consider to revisit the number of suppliers and accept only those suppliers who agree the terms and conditions of Corsair, right? Because it's important for Corsair to have those suppliers in panel which can supply him good quality of raw material at a specific time period. I mean, quantity, quality, and time all should be perfect, right? So this is basically how we can answer. One part is the identification part, one part is for the changes we need to make, and one part should come along with the justification. That's the most important thing, right? So let me try to tell you how we can write this answer. I think I need to, uh, yeah. So how I started with the introduction of JIT. This means that probably I will get around 1 to 2 marks from here, right? And then I started with one paragraph which is actually related to the first point. One paragraph is related to second point, and then there is a third paragraph. There are three paragraphs which I believe we can earn 2 to 3 marks. I've written 3 marks because I've written too much, right? You are not supposed to write this much. So you can obviously reduce in quantity. I mean, I'm just reading one paragraph and then I will send you its written version so you can also understand. Considering the purchasing side, Corsic is currently purchasing from 4 different suppliers, each with its unique buying procedures. The lack of standardization in the purchasing process can lead to additional time and errors, as Corsic then has to take care of the specific requirements of each supplier. I mean, we have to make sure what the supplier need is. Considering that Corsic is working with a customer moving to GIT, the accuracy of supplying material at a specified time will be extremely crucial. Therefore, establishing a unified purchasing procedure is necessary to streamline the process and enhance its efficiency. So we have identified the reason that what benefit it will bring to the company, why it is needed. Right. That's again same case for the next two requirements. So that's basically how we are supposed to construct the answer. Right. So, and that generally comes along with the practice. The more you write, the more you will be able to do it properly. Right. The second point is, so this is basically the first 6 marks. So we are done with 6 marks for the purchasing policy. We are done with probably 1 to 2 marks with the definition. So actually we are done with around 7 marks out of 13 marks, right? What is left is 6 marks from production. And from production, we need to identify 3 points and 3 justifications. Right? So the performance metric at Corsic of production efficiency. Let me try to choose a different color so that we can differentiate. Okay. The performance metric for production efficiency is the number of dresses produced per period, right? This is basically how we are analyzing the performance. Individual dresses in the long production run. So that's something which we have already done. Staff working in the production department have their bonuses based on this metric. So that means the more you are producing, the more output you will get, and the more bonuses you will get. Do you think it's a right for? Do you think it's a correct strategy if we are supplying to someone who is moving to GIT? And if you are saying no, you have to identify the reason why. Why this statement? Why this policy is not correct? If you're producing more and more output, what you are doing, you are actually working in a push system. Push system means we produce, now sell it. GIT actually work in a pull system. If you get the demand, first pull the demand and then produce the output. It's a completely contrasting, I mean, both concepts are completely in contrast with each other, right? So the first thing is that we need to understand this, that this KPI, this bonus system is not correct. Because if we are asking labor to produce more and more output, he will produce, but what you will do if you will not get any order from Erich because you don't have any other customer. So most important thing is that we need to change this performance metric. We need to change this performance measurement system. Why? Because more output will result in excess inventory if demand for redress changes. In that case, since the customer has only, since they have only one customer, they won't be able to sell to whom you will sell. Right. So this need to be changed, right? Sorry, I wrote it here. I should have written it somewhere else. So this is the identification of first point, and why you think that this need to be changed is that you don't have any other customer. Either find any other customer to whom you can sell those products, or else get it off with that idea. Okay. Staff working in production department have base bonus on the system. Goods which have not been produced to required standard have traditionally been rejected at the end of production process, right? Now, this is also important at the end of production process. So let's suppose that you are producing dresses, and it generally takes 4 days to complete a dress. And after 4 days, you came to know that the 5% output, or maybe 2 or 3% of the output, was not up to the mark. So again, you have to do the whole work, right? If you do quality inspection at multiple stages, because quality is important for you, because RH wants the best quality from the customer, from its supplier, because he is also moving to GIT. He has no stock left in the inventory. So you have to introduce quality control at multiple times, at multiple stages, right? At the end of every stage, like cutting, stitching, packing, whatever stages you must introduce quality inspection if you're not sure about the quality of the product, right? So introduction of this needs to be changed. So introduction of quality uh, checking or inspection is a better word, at different stages of production process. And why this is important? Because it will help to identify losses as soon as they occur. Or this is not a good word, losses at early stages. It will help the company to uh, take corrective actions more timely. I mean, let's suppose the stitches went wrong, and you need to, do that process again. If you identify it after packing or something, or after certain process, then obviously it will take more time. Okay, what else we need to do? We need to control here. Okay, what else we need to change here? Goods have not been produced. Okay, fine. Corsic production control manager has indicated you that the current production method has been successful and the company has only 5% of goods returned due to poor quality. So you have to train your labor. You have to actually reduce this 5%. Whatever is happening with this 5%, you need to control this. You need to reduce 5% rejection, and you need to bring this down as much as possible. And I mean, we don't know what is the reason behind it. So you can write it in a general term that first we need to identify the cause of defects and correct it. Or you can also write it here that management needs to accept that 5% losses are not acceptable. You must get out of this impression that you are having good quality output, right? And why this is important? Because quality is important for Corsic, for RH, right? So that's basically, again, we have identified 3 points. First point I wrote here. This is the first point. This is the second point, and this is the third point. So 3 points with reasoning. We are done with part A. 13 marks part A. You don't need to write too much. There was a student, I don't know if I've discussed this with you or not, but there was a student who asked me for 13 marks how much I should write. I said, complete your points in I mean, complete your points. And if you can you can complete your point in 2 lines. You can also complete your point in 6 lines. So try to maintain a balance, how much you are supposed to write. Because if you write and delete and rewrite and then delete and then cut, copy, paste, it's going to take a lot of time. So that's basically how we can construct the answer. Now let's see the marking scheme of this before moving to the next part. Okay, so changes. See, the question itself is saying that you have to start from the introduction. A description of GIT, that is for 1 mark, right? Changes to purchasing in production, 1 mark per point up to 30 marks. When they are saying 1 mark per point, that doesn't mean you have to identify 13 marks points. That means you have to identify point issues along with justification. Justification is 1 mark and the issue is 1 mark, right? That's the most important thing. Maximum of 13 marks. If you write more, you can maximum get 13. You will not get 14 or 15 or 16 marks. That's important, right? And there's one important thing. There's this is something which has been given by ACCA examiner, where he identified what is a good answer and what is a weak answer. So this is a good answer. See, it's quite less written here, but obviously you should write. You should build a habit of writing from it properly so that you can secure more and more marks, right? Goods may need to reduce its suppliers, so Corsac may need to reduce its suppliers so that better develop relationships and work with ones who can be relied on meeting high quality material demands. It should be considered whether the remaining two suppliers means because there were two suppliers who were making the issue. So he has identified everything with very specific, with, with, with quite less wordings, right? But I think you should write it in paragraphs. That's more important, right? It should be considered whether the remaining two suppliers provide this need and Corsair should work closely with them to improve quality and reduce lead time, right? This is also an important point. Build suppliers, relationship with supplier. This is important now. Why factor? Now he's explaining. This is important as a material from supplier needs to be right amount at the right quality because if it isn't, this will lead to delays in meeting its order. Supplier agreements will need to be detailed, probably include SLA and be reviewed on a regular basis what changes they are making. Right. So the student has covered almost all points, but I think there's more. There should be more points added to this. But obviously, this is not examiner answer. This is student's answer. But examiner is considering this to be correct, right? Reasonable. Now, what is a weak answer? This is a weak answer. Coursera must choose supplier. Now, must is something we should avoid writing because must means we don't have any other option available. So that is something which we should avoid. Coursera must choose suppliers who are reliable and produce on demand. So maybe Coursera should just choose one supplier to work closely with. The supplier who dispatches in full load quantities may need to discard it as Coursera does not want to have high inventory to dresses. It may become obsolete. Quality should be the agenda as priority for RH, is the only customer, therefore has no time to produce quality products. And there's just 1 or 2 points, right? So this examiner is considering a weak answer, right? So you must write along with the justification. Justification is extremely important, right? So again, you have to build that habit of answering it like this. Okay. And the second one says that cost of quality changes, right? Cost of quality changes is the next point. Okay. What they are saying is GIT and cost of quality. Now we are moving and we have to move towards the next part, this part, this part. Aries would like to move to GIT system. Okay, this is something which we already read. The CEO does not believe that the company will encounter any problems. We have very good quality of control practices and blah blah. Now, this is an important thing. Corsic CEO has made available to you a list of costs which she believes addresses all relevant cost of quality. These costs are detailed in Appendix number 1. The heading of cost of quality reports are also supplied in this appendix. She indicated that some of these costs have never been measured before and have been given financial values to help you to give advice. She also told that Corsic current revenue is 4.5 million. So let's move towards the appendix part. Let's see what we have there. This is the appendix. You don't need to calculate. I don't think you need to calculate anything, but let's see. Prevention cost is around 8,000, which is 0.18% of total cost of revenue, right? Which means 8 million, 8,000 divided by 4.5 million. 4.5 million is 4500 and 000, and then multiplying with 100. Right? So prevention, we are spending least money in prevention costs, just 0.18% of the revenue. Then appraisal cost, quality control supervisor, quality audit. We are spending 37,000 on appraisal cost, which is approximately 1% of the revenue. Cost of non-conformance. Non-conformance is if you're not doing anything well, anything good, what will be the cost of that? So conformance means to cost to prevent the losses, right, before passing it to the customer. So what is a non-conformance cost? Internal failure, reworking cost, machine downtime, scrap, all these before passing to the customer is 3.73%. Like in when we did the quality control, quality inspection, we figured out some flaws, serious flaws, and those flaws cost is around 3.73% of the revenue. And then external failure cost is cost of complaint from RH, 135,000 to deal with that. Foregone contribution from sales, 85,000, and product recall and cost of goods return is 180,000. It's around 400,000, which is 8.89%, which is almost 9% of the total revenue, right? So overall total cost is 13.62%. What is the problem in this whole statement? Because CEO believes that everything what they are doing is perfect. Is that so? No. You are not spending money on prevention. You are spending least money in prevention. You are not trying to reduce the losses. You are not trying to work on preventing the losses because you believe that your product is perfect. You don't need to change any processes. And what's the result of that belief? The result of that belief is that you are spending around 13.62% of your revenue on the quality on the quality cost, right? The good idea is to spend more money on prevention so that you can produce a good output, so that you don't need to do internal failure work, you don't need to do external failure, because the most money you are spending is on external failure, because you have to deal with the complaints and complaints from the only customer. You don't have any more customer. Contribution of sales, product recalls, and there's one cost which is not given here. Generally, is the case that is you need to further advertise your product because you want to brainwash your customers so that they believe that now you got a good product with the company, right? Because we have just one product, so we are trying to deal with only Eric. We just have one customer. So for 7 marks, you need to identify what is the problem with the cost of quality. The problem is that now we know that out of 13.62%, the significant portion is related to external failure, which I initially said that the scariest part, right? So the need here is that if you spend more money here, probably you don't need to spend more money on external, because customer dealing with a bad quality product is not a good idea, right? So if this question is of 7 marks, you can start with 1 mark for the basic definition of cost of quality. That what do you mean by cost of quality? Cost of quality actually means that the cost which the company is bearing in order to make the product a good quality product. And then uh, and then there are 6 marks will be left. If you 6 marks are left, we can identify 3 marks for what is the problem with current system, and 3 marks for the suggestion. Or you can write 1 mark for the conclusion. Conclusion in the sense whether the a statement made by the CEO is good enough or not. So you need to conclude whether what do you think that CEO is fine in his confidence or not. So how can we write it? We first of all we need to identify that the most important thing is that we are not spending on prevention. We are spending more on external failure. Why this is not a good idea? Because external failure means that the customer has identified that the company is not having a good product, and customer, we have only one customer. So if that customer leaves company, we won't be able to, we will be nowhere in the business because we don't have any other customer available. So either, not either, that's the most important point. and then we are spending more money on rework. That means the quality of product is not up to the mark. What we believe is not correct, right? So what is the remedy then? Remedy is that you need to spend more on prevention so that you produce good quality product which can be and then you don't need to spend on internal and external failure. So that should be the overall answer of this question, right? So my point is that whatever you are writing, whatever you are writing, you have to make sure that you are coming up with why factor. You have to identify why you think that the current system is not good, and again, why you believe that this suggestion is a better version, and then obviously a conclusion. 1 mark for the conclusion, right? So that's how we can answer a 25 marks question. Although it's not a difficult question, but if you are not, because if see, the problem is if the question is not difficult, then it's not difficult for everyone. It's easy for everyone. So minor mistake. So if you are doing mistakes in that question, will give a very bad impression on examiner. I mean, I have checked a lot of copies. I can understand this, that if you are checking copies of 50 students, if one question is quite easy, and so I expect everyone to do good in that part, because the rest of the questions, the remaining two questions are not that easy. So I'm expecting that the students should get maximum marks from this question. So if you do anything, if you are unable to get marks here, probably you will end up in losing in APM paper. I hope you are there. Any comments? Anna, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I'm listening.
Okay. So, is there any comment from your side that what I mean, anything, any comment in this question, anything which you are unable to understand or you want more clarity on?
I think you've managed to break it down. I'm going to do it later on, I think, so that I can totally understand what you were talking about. I'm going to do it again so that at least I can understand all the points that you were raising. You made it quite simple. And I think after this presentation, I will be able to answer the question quite well. So, what I'm trying to do is I'm just going to go through the notes again and then try to attempt it again.
Okay, perfect. And just try to make sure again that do the dissection. What I think in medical term it's called dissection. So do
Mm-hmm.
the dissection of marking scheme, so
Yeah,
that you
yes,
will be relaxed that
yeah.
how much you need to write, because 13 marks is a panic situation. When students
Mm-hmm.
see 13 marks, they just get panicked that, oh my god, I have to write too much. No, you don't
Yeah.
have to write too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So in the next session will be on, I think I will share my schedule. Next session
Okay.
will not be on coming Sunday, but the next
Mm,
Sunday. So every Sunday we will have one live session. But in the next session, we will start with section A. This is section B. This is just a warm-up question. We will start
mm-hmm.
with section A. So that's going to be the most important section, because obviously 50 marks are actually from section A. All right.
So, are you able to share us the question that you are going to look at so that I can look at it beforehand so that at least I
Yeah,
can
actually,
understand it more?
Yeah, actually, I have shared it on an email invite. So unfortunately, you didn't get that.
Okay.
Uh, so you will get the question in that email invite, and
Oh,
I will share
great.
it on the WhatsApp group too. So if someone is not getting that, at least
Yeah.
we get the material.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be
Um,
perfect because at least I would have looked at the question before so that at least I can understand it more.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, Anna. Thank you for joining this session, and hopefully we will connect in the next live session. All right.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye bye. Merry
Okay,
Christmas.
bye. You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.